Hey there and welcome to Gorge for another casted game. On the south side we have Granath in the red as the Holy Roman Empire, and on the north side we have my old mate Rental Beast 8160, which I'm definitely not going to be saying those numbers anymore, in purple as the Byzantines. So this is a matchup that I've seen a lot as I main the Byzantines, and I'm really interested to see how Rental decides to tackle this today. So taking a look at the scouting paths now, we can see that Granath is going for quite an aggressive start, and also if you take a little look at the interface at the top, you'll see that Rental has gone for 2 scouts, and I think this is actually quite a clever move against the Holy Roman Empire, because you really want to deny them as much of that safe food as possible. If they can get a massive haul of sheep, then they're going to be in real trouble if they decide to fast castle or something like that. So if we take a look, he's gone very straight up to the corner. Personally, I think if you're going to do this corner, you probably want to go up and round, but that's, I would think, going all the way aggressively to the other side is pretty good. If we take a little look over at Rental Scouts, we can see that he's gone straight across in a straight line, and then he's going to cover this side, so he's probably going to be able to get this half before he does it. Obviously he's managing 2 scouts, so this guy's taking a little breather before he gets his next command. If we take a little look over at the other side, we can see that he's also covering this one, and he's really hoovering up these sheep. So I think he's probably going to end up with maybe 2/3. So he's got 7 on that one already, he's got 2 over here, so I reckon he'll probably get 3 or 4 more. And if we take a little look at Granath, he's only got 4 so far, so this is not going too well for him. There's the one there he's going to grab, and then Rental's probably going to get all of the other ones on this side over here. So if we have a look at this matchup, then the Byzantines can do lots of different things, but generally we're probably going to see a winery play, especially with it being a nice safe back winery. You could put it here, and then it's sort of nice and closed in by the wood line and all of that good stuff. Front gold is never going to be good when you're getting pushed on this map, so whatever Rental decides to go for, that's going to be a position that he's going to have to defend quite fiercely. If we take a little look at Granath's spawn, he's actually very lucky as HRE because he's got super back gold. It literally couldn't even be further back at this stage. So I imagine we're probably going to be seeing the Archon, and I imagine it will be right here against the wood line, and that gets the wood, the gold, and the TC food. So that's going to allow him to kind of go crazy with his eco with that one prelate. Stepping it out from the wood line, I guess, to maximize the amount of farms you can get around it later on, but it's going to be interesting to see what he decides to do, because he could go fast castle, he might end up going for some feudal aggression. We'll have to wait and see. So far Granath has got 6 sheep, and if we take a little look at Rental, he's got 5 over here, and his other one has got 10. Wow, so he's really got the lion's share of the sheep there, or the wolf's share, should we say. So that's going to really help him as well. And there's also one little guy here chilling outside the base, waiting for his nice little purple coat to appear. He might even walk himself in, but the scout has found him. There we go. So 16 sheep there for Rental is a pretty nice start. So yeah, Archon going up, and I really like this position because it's going to allow him to get lots of farms. I've seen a lot of players putting the Archon directly here, but then your TC blocks 4 of those farm positions, so I don't think that's always the smartest of moves. I also like the mill, going for that early wheelbarrow, because that does really help give you that extra little eco boost. If I remember one of the Age of Noob videos, it's about 3% overall or something like that. Rental going for slightly forward berries here. I guess that gives you more space for the groves while you're still chopping all of that wood. So it's either way, it was going to be here on the other side of these berries. So a pretty decent position. And if the spacing is right, you should be able to get 2 sets of groves here, which is actually really ideal. Really quick drop off, and it's also pretty safe there because the TC covers all of those. So that's really nice. We're also going to have to think about where he's going to put his next cistern. So this one covers up all of these things. So I imagine the other one will probably be dropped right back in this corner or right over here to get the wood line, and then it's back and it's also safe. So let's take a look over here. Rental is doing a nice little bit of scouting, as players that are better than me tend to do with their scouts, and not just picking up deer. And so it looks like Granath's going very heavily into wood. So he's either going to be dropping early farms because he's not got many sheep, or he's going to be adding in more production. But with only 1 barracks coming in so far, I imagine it's going to be a couple of men-at-arms, possibly. We're going to have to wait and see what he is playing with. Only 3 on gold tells me it's probably not a fight. fast castle age, maybe a slow one. And if we take a little look over, Rental isn't getting any of his eco tech yet, so we can see no wheelbarrow, no double broadaxe, although the lumber camp is just about to complete. So this probably tells me that, okay, he is now going for them. As I was about to say, maybe he's going for a fast castle himself. So he's going for some production, going for a stable so he can go and harass, which I think is a very nice choice. The oil mounting up there, once he gets to the sort of 400-500 mark, he'll be able to choose what he goes for. Often you see players going for keshiks in this matchup because they can deal relatively well with feudal men-at-arms, but longbows are always a super safe choice as well. So Scout sitting there, and this is really nice. You look at that vision, he can see the wood villagers, he can see what the gold's doing, and he can keep an eye on how much has been mined as well. So that's going to allow his horsemen to pop over there and hopefully do some decent damage for him. We can see an archery range, so it looks like Rental's going to be going pretty heavy feudal. No Merc House at the moment, which is actually the right play. So a lot of players I've noticed go for, including myself, go for the Merc House first before you even have enough to get those units, and they really are slow, so you do need to just make units. The horsemen are going to be able to defend the men-at-arms relatively well. They are a soft counter, but he's going to have to be very careful of these guys getting a mass up because they are pretty chunky boys. Not loads of armor, loads of health, so they're going to be quite difficult to deal with. And we can see here the scout getting caught out, so 4 men-at-arms on the field, a couple more running over just from the double barracks play. And if we check out, oh, the scout's going to go down. No more vision for you. Oh, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Are you going to get away? Just about getting in TC range now. Are the men-at-arms going to realise, or are they going to run onto TC and take damage? Only a few little shots there, but nicely saved there. That scout is going to survive to fight another day. If we take a look, we've got just the double barracks, just printing men-at-arms at this stage, which is a good move against Byzantines because they don't have a direct counter for feudal heavy units. So that's something really good. And we can also see the blacksmith going in, so he's going to be just going really heavy on those. No archery range, which when you see the feudal push for HRE, you tend to see archers because with the marching drills, they can move much more quickly. They can kite, so they're really, really decent. But looks like Rental's going to try and catch him unawares, do a bit of damage here. And there we go. So both using the line formation to try and do as much damage as possible. That's a really nice little shift that you can do if you've got the APM to manage it. So no blacksmith as of yet for Rental. So none of those techs coming in. Against these heavy units, extra melee damage isn't going to do a huge amount. But so he's using that wood for those groves, which is really nice and is going to buff up his oil eco. If I saw correctly, we're on keshiks, which against men-at-arms I think is the right play, and archers to defend, which are currently just manning the outside of the range and making sure that nobody's going to harass that there. The men-at-arms charging in on the berries, and they're not going to find the damage they were looking for, and the keshiks popping out just as they do it. Horseman mass, now this is looking pretty scary. Those keshiks can do a huge amount of damage, and look at them, and they also heal as well, so these men-at-arms are not going to do as well as I think Granath thinks. The keshik there running around the back and having a little break for some reason, but this is the micro that you can see at higher levels, pulling away those low health, so then the units in the fight will target the other ones. So you notice that this low health horse pulled away, and then he was able to come back into the fight, so that's really nice. If you've got the APM to do it, it saves a huge amount of your units. And Rental doesn't have the hippodrome, so he's not going to be using Triumph to heal these guys up, so he needs to make sure he keeps them alive, because the HRE income is generally pretty strong, and these farms are starting to go crazy around there. On the other side, the groves are one of the better farms because of the oil production as well, and with the system buff he's already up to a 14% increase, so once a couple more of those systems go down, that's definitely going to start making more of an effect. Spears coming out now for Granath, and Rental's going to have to be really careful not to get his cavalry skewered, so these archers trying to pick off the spears and getting the men-at-arms instead. Oh, that's a shame. So nice little charge onto the men-at-arms, and they're doing a huge amount of damage, those keshiks, and if Rental can keep these guys alive, that's going to be a really strong part of his military. But 17 units to Granath's 6 at the moment. Granath's going to have to be really careful not to lose too many of his units now, otherwise the Byzantine mass is going to overwhelm him. massively into spears, and he has added some archers now, which I think is definitely the right call. A lot of production for Granath, actually. So 4 production buildings already. If we take a look, he hasn't hidden any. There's no proxy bases yet, just the 4. And if we go to Rental's side, he's got 3. So double stables now because he can see the archer switch. So this is going to work really well for him with lots of mobility on that. So the scout is there hiding. Can Granath actually see anything there, or is he just... Yeah, he's just chilling. He's having a great time over there. So Keshik's now going into the woodlines, going into the farms, trying to idle that eco. And this is going to be a big hit to the eco. All of those units, all of those villagers doing it. And the Keshiks have got the armor, so they are surviving relatively well. Stone being collected now for him, whether that's for emplacements, I imagine. I can't see any reason why. Yeah, so it's going to be for these forward emplacements, which are now full of those villagers that have retired from the farms to save themselves. So archers and men-at-arms running out the front, and this is where both players are having to be very careful to make sure they don't take too much damage when they're raiding. So a nice little defensive force here, and that little Keshik push has actually done really well. It's forcing Granath to stay at home, or he believes he's in danger here. So he's not walling up, which I think potentially would be a good call, because on this map it's quite difficult, but your home base you can actually wall a short wall here, and a short wall to that front wood line would protect that side, and on this side with the gold, even like a little wall maybe here, just to stop them running into that part and just running around would be good. But Granath is going for the classic HRE tower defense because you get those cheaper emplacements. So he knows what he's doing, and whether it's going to work, we're going to have to wait and see. Byzantine military numbers now climbing, as we can see here, 29, and we should see the stone has been used. So where's Rental's stone? He should be seeing, there we go, there is another cistern. I can see that there must be one. So now that's going to be level 3, so that's going to boost the production for all of these as well, which is going to be really nice for his eco. Floating a lot of gold and food, so that tells me that he's going to be, with this military to defend or attack, he's going to be going for the castle age so that he can get those heavy units out. Maybe some cataphracts, Varangian guard, very expensive units but generally pretty strong. We can see the HRE force now coming forward, and they're going to have to be really careful because they don't have the numbers at this stage, so they've got to take a really good fight. And if those spears go down, the cavalry is just going to run over all of those archers in no time. So, oh, they're both passing each other. Can they see each other? That's the question. They can. Okay, so they do know they're there. And let's bring it back in. So spears bracing and a nice pullback. One horse caught there on the brace, but now that brace is gone, the cavalry are going to be able to move around a lot more freely. Men-at-arms going for the archers, which is definitely the right play. Archers going for spears. This is a micro off if ever I've seen one. But that surround, look at that, trapping all those archers. Oh, this is really bad for Granath. He's losing a huge number of those units. The spears taking down cavalry, but Rental's archers are still going strong, and the numbers are just not looking good. Keshik's able to do a huge amount of damage to any of those units. Men-at-arms coming in, but look at these guys tanking, and they heal at the same time, so they're going to be able to survive just that little bit longer. The red in this military is definitely looking smaller and smaller by the second. Reinforcements coming in from the back from Rental. A scout deciding to get in on the action. That's not going to go well for him, and there were some archers back here, but they've retreated. So scout going down. And that was a huge fight for Rental and a terrible fight for Granath. So we can see now 17 left and 5 for Granath, both aging up at the same time. Golden Horn Tower coming up in the back, which is going to come up even more quickly. And so he's going to see Keshiks and Gulams pouring out of there absolutely for free. And we're also going to be able to pick up some relics for him. Now Granath has gone for Burgrave, which in this case could work, but he's not going to have Regnits to go up and immediately pick up those relics. And if Rental gets them, Byzantines really love those oily relics because it just means they can get even more mercenaries out as well as everything else. So against HRE, you always deny relics, and really that's what Granath should be thinking against Byzantines as well. So Burgrave going up, he's going for the techs in his barracks. I think this is something really good that I was hoping he would do. So the techs going up in the barracks and then printing units from here. This does produce the upgrades more quickly, but if you do this, you can still produce units and get the upgrades. So if you ever go for Burgrave, or you go for a landmark that prints units and you already have the production buildings, make sure you get your upgrades in those specifically, and then you print from the one that gives you the speed buff or cost reduction or whatever it is that it does, whether you're OTD, HRE, or even the Malians if you decided to go without the cow boom. So Monastery dropped down very quickly to try and get some of those relics. We can already see one in hand for each, so he actually pulled the prelate out of the Archon, so that's going to be one apiece, and then it's going to be contesting these two on the sides. So where's the fifth? Oh, Rental's already got that one. So if we go and let's have a look at relic watch. So the back relic's been picked up, the middle relic, center relic's been picked up. So now it's going to be a fight for who can get the ones at two sides. And both of these players massing up units. This is the only problem with Burgrave. He's just been able to print a huge amount of these units, but he doesn't quite have the eco to manage constant production of those. His food eco is crazy. Archon farms obviously are amazing. And Rental getting a big catch there. The men-at-arms weren't on a move, so they weren't able to catch those guys, but this is where the Keshiks are not handling this as well. Crossbows definitely needing to be coming out to deal with these guys, and Rental's not going to be able to go into the heavy units as much because the men-at-arms are going to get that attack bonus with the heavy maces. So the Keshiks and Gulams are also going to have to be careful, as well as these cheeky little Varangian boys at the back. But Cataphract coming in, look at that damage. There's no charge attack, but they do really pack a punch, and they look awesome. So all those men-at-arms going down, and the Burgrave is trying to print them maces in hand, but the numbers here are looking bad. I think Granaf's going to have to make sure that he retreats and defends. Don't just flood your units in one by one, because they're just going to get picked off. Oh dear, this is really not... This is a huge amount of resources, and there we go, he's realised his rally point must have been forward, and he's just basically fed them into the arms of the Byzantines, and Rental happily accepted those. So 3 relics for Rental, 2 for Granath. That's a really great pickup for him, and that's going to mean that his oil production is really going to skyrocket. It's basically 1 set of mercs a minute now, which makes a huge difference to these numbers, which are already in Rental's favour. And if we look at the eco, his food's starting to pick up, and he's actually starting to get ahead even with the same villager numbers, and with the relics being used for oil, not for gold, whereas Granav's is going to be for gold. So Keshik's running in here trying to get some raids off, and the heavy Varangian guard into the farms to idle that HRE income. Those towers shooting down, but the Varangian don't care. They're gonna burn everything. Everything must burn. And this is really not great for Granath. While his eco is idle, Rentals is just getting more and more established. He's also gathering stones, so he's going to be either looking for some defensive or offensive emplacements and keeps, or he might also be dropping down to get that 5th level cistern. So we can see these guys raiding on the back line. Let's take this away and we can enjoy the carnage. So these Varangian guard not worrying about the military, just focusing on villagers and doing damage there. So let's wing it back, and we'll flip the view back to the correct way so that everyone's eyes can readjust, and while they're regrouping we can see that Rental's grabbed the sacred sites, and he's going to be forcing an engagement, I think, from Granath any minute. If we take a little look over at Rental's base, he's on cistern level 3 and he's still gathering up that stone, but Granath calls it. Potentially the right call, one too many bad fights and the resources went down. But we're about to do the post-match review, and make sure you stick around to the very end of the video because I have a recommendation for the next amazing game you've got to watch. And here we are just before GG was called as the Byzantine forces storm around the map causing havoc. Let's zoom out now, bring up the interface and give it a cheeky pause so we can check out the final state of play. So if we take a little look at Rental's base and how he handled this. So he was gathering up stone. He didn't go for the 5th level cistern. I think in this case, with that extra stone, if he dropped a couple of those, that would have given him an extra production boost. Obviously, he was doing really well, and his eco was also very, very strong, even considering the Archon buff. With that extra oil income from these groves, I think that definitely works out in his favor. So 2 relics in the bag and then 1 coming back in. That's going to be a huge amount of mercenaries he's getting from that. In terms of his base layout, I really love his system positioning. So having it here covering all these resources, but actually really close to the TC for defense. And then this one at the back that he's been able to put loads of production around it without blocking too many groves, because obviously on this map it's a bit tight with the wood lines. Putting the other back cistern over here, we're giving you loads of room to fill it with more production, I think is also a really great idea. We can see he also wasn't shy while he had the map control to go out and get more berries, because as the Byzantines, you obviously want all of that juicy oil that all of these guys are picking up, which is a huge amount from the berries. So really nice composition as well, and he got tons of production. So yeah, 2 stables, 2 ranges, 1 merc house and 3 barracks. So that works really well to make sure that he can use all of those units, which a lot of Byzantine players often tell me that they forget, because you get the conscriptio bonus, because at the beginning 1 production building is actually just that little bit more effective. It's always difficult to remember, so that's definitely a good idea. And I'm not sure why that barracks is floating in midair, but maybe it gives the Varangian Guard the ability to fly. Who knows? But yeah, really nice, and no walls needed because he was pushing out and he was using his units and keeping Granath in his base, which worked really well. In terms of Granath's side, he just went really heavy on the Archon farms, which can be a good idea if you have the military advantage. I think going for these early farms immediately without maybe going for any of the external resources, like without trying to go for like the deer over here or the boar in this corner or anything like that. This front deer was never going to be collected. There's no way, not with those units there. But I think it was good that he went for the early production. Going just for men-at-arms though, I think potentially was maybe not the correct play, and he should have mixed in some spears a little bit earlier when he saw the horses, because the men-at-arms can only deal with them for so long. So actually going for spear and men-at-arms would force horse and archer, and then you know what they're doing. You can also then go archer or horses yourself, or whatever you want to do. So it looks like Granath decided to go for double production of everything, so he wasn't sure exactly what was going on. And at this stage, actually, it looks like he's still going for those upgrades from those, which again is a good idea. Although, if he's not printing from here, they do go quicker from the Burgrave. So, you know, I only think it's a good idea when you're trying to produce units from the Burgrave. But this is really a Hail Mary, or in this case, a Hail Granath, because if you don't have the eco, you can't produce from it constantly, whereas the Regnitz gives you constant buffs from having any of those relics if you can get them. So actually, maybe just dropping down 2 more barracks and then just going for Regnitz could have worked a little bit better. But the Archon farm's always really strong. I definitely think some walls would have helped him just be a bit more defensive, even just like 1 straight across here to stop any raids around the back. And at the front, towers are good, but the heavy units can just storm straight in as they're about to do. So definitely think some more defenses from Granath at this stage, but using all of that wood for those farms, I definitely think slowed down his push, which gave Rental the time he needed to get everything set up and to get those extra mercenaries out to really pack a punch. But a fantastic match from both sides, loads of really nice macro and interesting plays, and we're going to zoom back in. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a recommended game for you, so make sure you check that out in the cards above, and you're going to be able to continue watching another amazing casted game. Have a great day whatever you're doing. I hope you're smashing it on the ladder, and I will see you next time.